what we are going to discuss today, right? So this is a session I have planned on API testing evolution using rest assured, right? So first of all, let's discuss on the current approaches, what professionals are doing, right? And what basically lays the foundation of why we need the rest assured actually, right? Why we can't do things like API tests through our traditional tools like we have Postman, right? HTTP client, right? So there are a lot of advantages which we bring in when we create or we use the rest assured framework, right? So rest assured, if we generally talk about, so rest assured is the popular API testing tool in the market right now, right? Anything you want to test, like XML based web services, right? JSON based, so you can very well do it through rest assured. Okay, so let's say I will just first of all walk you through the basics, right? And let's set the agenda what we are going to discuss today on the rest assured, right? Because it is a very wide subject, right? Everything cannot be covered, right? But yes, so we have to we have to set some agenda and we have to follow that as well, right? So today's agenda we are going to discuss in context of a rest assured is what or like how this evolution comes in, right? And what is basically rest assured, right? Then why we need exactly the API automation, okay? And then how we can start with the rest assured. Okay, so there are always certain dependencies you need, some prerequisites are required. So what all those things are required before starting writing the actual rest assured test. Okay, and then we will understand the test case writing convention, how we write the test cases, right? The basic structure, right? And we will be covering this with example of a get request and a post request, right? So let's start with the from the starting, like what is rest assured, right? So whenever I have seen in professional, whenever we talk about what is rest assured or can we create rest assured framework, right? So so the QA professionals, they come on the they just come on the back foot, right? So there are different reasons for that, right? So if you will talk to your QA team, so then they will definitely first of all get scared of, okay, rest assured is a Java library, right? So we don't know Java. So how we will be able to learn it, or how we will be able to create the test cases? And if we will be able to create the test cases, so how long we can maintain that, right? So these all questions comes onto the team, right? And definitely when they start investing the POC on the rest assured framework, so they feel very rejected or probably disconnected the moment they see a lot of code, right? Lot of code related to the rest assured, okay? And then they go through a lot of examples on the internet that depicts the Java, you can say Java snippets, and some conventional method chaining statements that definitely set back the manual testers, right? And in fact, some level of UI automation testers also, right? So I want to emphasize over here, right? Like the rest assured is a very powerful framework if anybody wants to ensure their build is always error free, right? And they want to ensure the backend services are very stable, right? And let's say if, for example, if your product is very distributed and you want to ensure like with every UI change and the backend change, your the core business is not impacted. So in that case, API tests will definitely play an important role. Okay, so let's start with the introduction, right? And accordingly, we will move forward, right? So as I told, rest assured is nothing. It's a Java API basically. It's a Java library, right? Through by using which we can write powerful maintainable tests for RESTful web services, right? So let's say a very basic example if we take, right? So in Postman, what we exactly doing is we just creating a GET request, right? And entering some payload or entering some query params and just triggering a request, right? But what if you need that request to be, you want that request to like trigger n number of times, and you want to trigger it at nth instant of time, right? And you want to trigger it with some very varied kind of data, right? So all those things they cannot be done efficiently in the postman, right? So with the REST also, like other tools, uses HTTP protocol to communicate between client and server, right? So it also uses HTTP protocol, right? And using this, you can trigger an API for n number of times. You can trigger an API with n number of data. You can trigger an API at any instant of time using Jenkins CI/CD integration, right? And tests are written using your Java, right? So the Java OOPS features you can use, right, to ensure your code efficiency. You can use the inheritance features to maintain the efficient code, right? So in this way, you will write certain tests that will definitely caters the entire ecosystem, right? Not just one services. So, for example, there is a let's say if you take an example like Amazon, right? So Amazon is linked to n number of things, right? So there is a shopping cart, right? There is such products going on. Then there is they have some inventory checks also, right? Then they will like maintain their search optimization time also. So there will be a different services involved in that complex system, right? So if an API automation suite will be designed, right? So that will cater the entire ecosystem, not just the search component, not just the add to shopping cart component, right? So those all things can be very well handled if we are using an API automation suite, right? And rest assured provides a lot of features in getting that thing done for automation professionals, right? So similarly, let's come to what exactly rest assured, right? So rest assured supports a lot of different HTTP methods, right? So let's say if you want to create a test around GET request, so we can do that. If you want to do a post, you can do that. If you want to automate an API that involves put method, we can do that also. If you want to do or you want to automate the patch method, that also can be done, right? So this all delete, update, anything that is around STD, this, right? Whatever you we can use in the other clients, right? Like Postman, we can very well handle through REST, right? So this is like how powerful rest is, right? So coming to next big thing, like what basically the question on everybody's mind is why we need the API automation, right? We have manual QAs right there taking care of it. So why we need it, right? Or let's say probably somebody is saying we have UI automation in place and we are checking the happy flows. So why we need it, right? So I will give you an example of an industry where the evolution, right, of API automation came in picture, and by the time it came, then afterwards, no other UI automation suite was appreciated, right? So once the API automation benefits started coming, so the entire organization started focusing on the API automation tools, right? Because on UI automation, definitely a lot of things are around UI, all right? But definitely UI layer is always going to consume your backend services, right? So, and drafting an API automation definitely takes lesser time, right? So, so this is API automation have a lot of advantages for the testers, for the developers, right? And therefore, overall, it is reducing the release time to market, right? So, if we talk about the merits, right? So, it is definitely it is detecting the defects on early phases. For example, I will tell you. So in an organization, I have set up this automation suite. So how it was detecting the defects was so the automation suite was not just limited to the manual QAs, right, or to the QA team. So it got expanded to other teams also, right, developers, right, to the developers of the same product, right? So now, whenever a pull request was raised, right? So developers also start using that automation tool, and for their change, they started running it. Okay, and the moment they are done with the suit, so they the reports are publicly exposed to the complete team. So they just check their test results. If there are no errors, so definitely they can roll out their PR, the pull request, basically the code change to the QA. Otherwise, if there are errors, so that was a process that we made when the API automation suite comes into the picture. So if errors are coming, so developer have no right to hand over that change to QA, right? First of all, he have to see what exactly his changes have impacted, right? So that ultimately detects the defects on the developer side, right? So therefore, reducing the to and fro cycle between QA and developer, right? So this way, that time has been saved and better stable builds start getting rollout from the developer to the QA, right? Next is how API automation enhances the contract validation for complete ecosystem, right? So as I told, for example, there is a product and they have definitely a complex product will have n number of downstreams and n number of upstream, right? So for example, we have devised an auto API automation suite for that product, right? So the moment all APIs of that product will be I would say like all API tests will be running of that particular product. So they must be scanning entire ecosystem. That is the APIs from upstream. They will be getting tested, and APIs from the downstream, they will be getting tested, right? Like let's say, for example, we will take the Amazon request, Amazon example, right? So, for example, we logged in Amazon, right? Search a product, add to cart, and just place an order. So, this is a complete flow that is visible to us on Amazon. So, what will be but ultimately what will be going on in the Amazon is like search will be a different team. They will have their own APIs, right? Similarly, add to cart will be having other team. They will also be giving certain APIs. Logging module will also be a different, right? And ultimately, there will be a team, right, that will be integrating this entire APIs, right? Then, and as a result, on the UI, we will be getting the Amazon interface basically, right? So when we will design an API automation suite for that particular product, so it will be testing out the APIs that are related to the search, that are related to the add to cart, right? And definitely we all will be doing entire stuff post login. So the login APIs will also be getting tested. So in this way, when we bundled all APIs involved in our product, right? So that gives the complete validation of the ecosystem, right? So in that way, the API suite will instantly pinpoint the moment there will be any certain change in API structure, right? So, for example, there was a JSON structure maintained for searching a product in Amazon, right? The moment with some new change, that structure got changed, right? For example, certain JSON objects get added, right? And some keys were by mistake they were replaced, right? So instead of when that change, instead of that request will go to QC and then QC will deploy it and then it will check, right? The moment developer will run that code on their own code, run that test, right? Using API automation, the developer will be running that test on their recent code. The moment it will see, rest assured will see, okay, the response is not as expected, right? So it will generate an assertion error, right? And developer will come to know, okay, something has been goofed up by my change. So let me see what I have done, right? So in that way, the complete validation will be happening, right? And third is common test suite helps dev and testers for testing, right? So as I told, developers and testers, everybody is having some different skill set, right? So if everybody will be involved in devising new test for his or herself, or probably like QA are doing manually and dev is not doing even any sanity code, so that will definitely lead to the delay in the release, right? So if we will devise, and that is what I have implemented in one of the organization, right? We have implemented a common rest assured test automation suite, right? That developers use for their unit level of testing and QAs use for the sanity level of testing, right? So now that automation suite is really helpful, and the sanity testing that was taking approx like 1.5 day. Now that sanity is being done in around 20 minutes, right? So that till that extent that automation has been done and the effort has been reduced, right? So this kind of benefit can be directly seen by using the API automation, using any level of tool, that is available in the market. But here we are talking about the rest assured, right? It is reliable and ensures backend changes. Yes. So reliability comes from whatever you have imposed as a validation in your test, right? So let's say now you have 200 APIs in your test. Okay. So you have 200 APIs in your test, and you have deployed some new change on your QC environment. Okay. So in that case, the moment your test will be run and everything is screened, right? So you will get the confidence, okay, there is nothing major flawed in here, right? The all the previous changes or probably the previous APIs and the features are working, right? So there could be the chances something is not good at the UI or probably on the new APIs, right? So, but for the regression part, for your all existing APIs, right? And that number could be like 500, 300 APIs, 200 APIs, 100 APIs, right? So that fact brings about out the reliability, right? And ensure the backend changes are stable, right? So no new thing, no previous functionality or previous API has been impacted due to the new changes, right? So this kind of benefits, this kind of advantages, this kind of, I would say, the this kind of uh, growth or probably improvement we can see in QA cycles, right? When we enforce such type of API automations, right? Faster execution time, yes, definitely. If we compare the API automation to UI automation, right? So API automation definitely takes less time, less execution time to execute, right? And as I told you, for considering an example, right? A team was definitely taking a day or like 1.5 day, and using the salary or using the rest assured API automation test, that effort has been reduced to 20 minutes, where around 300 APIs were being automated, right? So that story itself says how faster the execution time is comparatively UI, right? So these all factors, these all like key key indicators tell us why there is necessity of API automation, right? So we cannot just we cannot just sit and okay, we will say okay, this will take definitely 1 day to fully test fully this application, right? So today the time to market is very have to be very minimal, right? Everybody wants the sprint to be live in 4 5 days and as soon as possible, right? But that all thing can be achieved only using an effective API automation process or approach, right? And if you have that skill in your resources and you have those effective API automation tools, right? So now the thing comes is, and which definitely is not, I would say, gracefully absorbed by the testers or professionals is how we can start, right? So whenever things comes to the on the code part, right? So there is always a initial blocker, like how we can start, right? So starting with the rest assured is very easy, right? If I talk about like what are the prerequisites we need, right? So prerequisites are very simple, right? There are certain dependencies, like first of all, there is a rest assured dependency, definitely. Rest assured libraries you need to have in your project, right? So those can be imported by using this. right? And in case anybody don't know from where you can get these dependencies, let me take you to that website where you can see how you can get the dependencies for any Java library or other libraries, right? So Maven provide dependencies. So for example, there is you need the rest assured dependency, right? Just go to mavenrepository.com and type in rest assured. You will see it will give you the different versions available for that dependency, right? So from here you can see, right, that this is the dependency which you need to incorporate in your framework, right? Similarly, uh, now this is the first thing we have to do. So let's start building a simple project and see how we can do it, right? So now the and definitely for writing the rest assured, we definitely need an Eclipse ID or IntelliJ ID. That is a prerequisite, right? It should be there, yeah, right? Your Maven should be installed, okay? Maven should be installed, and your Java should be installed, right? And then we will just launch the ID that is IntelliJ, that is already launched on my setup, right? In case anybody is not familiar with the Maven installation, and probably Java and ID installation also, we will be setting up classes on those topics also very soon, right? But today's scope is to show you how we can structure the rest assured test basically, right? Because professionals really feel the initial blocker, how we can get to that, how it looks like, how it is, how exactly it runs, right? So we are starting from the fact that we have Java installed, Maven installed, and we have the ID installed, right? So from here, what we can do is we will just do a new project, right? And the moment you will just do new project, there will be an option called Maven project, right? Select Maven, right? We will be creating a Maven project, right? The moment you will do next, just enter your project name and the location where you want to create. That's it, right? The moment it will be done, this structure will be, this structure will comes as it is, right? This structure will come as it is. Now, the moment this project is being created in your ID, then first step you have to do is you have to go to the form.xml, right? So this form.xml is a simple file, is a XML file that contains the listing of dependencies which you want to include in your framework, right? So you remember, like we discussed just recently, like to create the test rest assured test, we need the rest assured dependency. So just copy this tab, go here, right, and then just paste that dependency tag, right, right. So this is the first thing you have to do while creating the rest assured test, right. So let me just, if I will just remove this and will again re-add that so that you can clearly see, right? So this is the thing we have to do, right? Now, after this rest short thing is added, now we need some test management libraries also, right? So how the test will be managed, how the reporting will be done for those tests, right? So for that we need testing, right? It is a testing framework, right, that help you to manage your test cases for the reporting part, right, and lot of other things, right. So data driven, you have to pull data from your CSVs, right? And you have to parameterize something, right? So those all things TestNG help, right? Similarly, now we have to incorporate the dependency of TestNG. So now just go to mavenrepository.com, enter TestNG, and then just copy this. Okay. And the moment you will copy this, paste this tag in the dependencies tab. That's it, right? So now these libraries, basically TestNG and rest assured, these libraries will be incorporated in your framework, right? So here you can see the external libraries which has been incorporated as a result of these dependencies. So you can see this is rest assured 4.4.0, right? So here this is the dependency which we have mentioned, and these are the libraries you can see, right? What are in the framework now. Okay. Similarly, we have incorporated TestNG. So you can see TestNG library is also involved here. You can see that, right? And then there are a lot of inbuilt interfaces, classes there, right? So those things we can discuss later on. So now let's come back uh, to the scope, right? So now we just saw, okay, what is exactly required to just start with the rest assured, right? So we just seen, okay, rest assured dependency we need to add. Then we have to add the testng, right? So testng dependency we have added, right? Now we will understand what is the basically the convention, right? How things are being drafted, how we can mention like what API, like if for example now let's say we have to test out the get request simple, right? So let's say if we will take an example, I will just go to a website. This is a very common website we can use, right? Request.in. So now for example, this is an API, list users, right? Okay. And in here we know, okay, this is the API, right? Now, where to mention this base URL, where to mention this endpoint, how to pass the query params, these all things definitely required when if we want to trigger this API through REST assured, right? So now let's simply go to the our project and we will create a class, right? For example, I will just create a class like rest assured sample class. Okay, so we have just created a class, right? Now what we have to do, we have to create a test, right? We will just type okay @test. Now you will see them saying annotations are not allowed here. Okay, let's not write here. Inside this, we will create a method, right? So what we will name this public void get request. Okay, so this is a method we have created in this class. This is a simple class, right? So these are the features of Java basically we are using. We are creating a class, in that we are creating a method, right? Now, now we have to create ultimately a test. So we will call these methods and we will annotate these methods with the help of testng annotations. That is test, right? So this will be our test. Okay. So now let's start building the rest assured request. Okay. So rest assured, how the rest assured structure is exactly, let me tell you, right? So if we go here and I will tell you how we split the structure, right? So for example, this is a http.example.com customers and then a lot of things, right? So we have distinguished the rest assured in three parts, right? There is a given part, there is when, then, right? So given, when, then, what they define is given defines what is the basically test setup, right? What is the environment, right? What are the parameters which you want to send, right? So those things needs to be defined in the given section, right? Then there is a section called when, right? So we you can remember it as given, when, then, right? In when you have to define what action you have to do. Like you have to do a post action, you have to do a get action, right? What kind of action you have to do? You have to you have to perform a put request, you have to perform a delete request. What do you want to, right? And then we have a then action, then section that defines, okay, in this section you can define what do you want to validate or what do you want to verify on the response that is received from the server, right? So all these things we will understand how we make use of these sections and build a rest assured test, right? So look, see here. So this will be like we will be doing in the same manner. Request is equal to given. Then in given, what we have to do is we have to define the test setup, right? What kind of content type we are sending, what are the parameters, whether auth is required or not, right? So then in when we will be defining whether we are doing a get request, whether we are doing a post request, right? And in then we will be doing a session. So let's do this thing with the example. I hope you all are getting it, right? So now, as we discussed, we have to start with the given condition, right? So let's start that. Okay. So first of all, right, first thing in rest assured is to be done is we have to set a base URI basically. So the base URI is the endpoint where we have to trigger our request, right? So for example, our base URI over here is request.a, right? So we will set up this. Okay. Now, what we will do, we will just do, we will use the notations, right? Right? Given. Now, the moment I have typed in given, you will see it has given a helping text to import something, right? So let's do that. It's saying, okay, just import this package. So what we will do, we will import these static methods, right? And now we will just start drafting our text, right? So now in given, as we discussed, what we have to do, we have to define the request parameters. So we have to build the request part, right? So from here we start building the request part. So for example, now let's say we are taking this example here, we need a query param as page 2. So what I will do, I will just enter a dot, right? The dot basically, this is a method chaining, right? So there is a query param we have to use to do this, right? In double quotes, we have to mention what is the query param basically, and then separating it by a comma, we can specify the value. Okay. Now this thing is done. So the given part, we are covered, right? So we don't have anything else apart from this. Okay, now what we have to do is we have to specify the action. So the action part will be done in the when, right? So in when we will define, okay, we have to perform a get request on this URL, right? And what is that URL? That is this endpoint. Okay. Now this part is done. We have specified, okay, we want to send a get request and to which endpoint? That is this one. Okay. Now, then comes then section, right? So now it specify, okay, it tells, okay, rest assured, it's clear, it will be sending the query parameter page with a value 2 on this base URL and will send a get request on this endpoint, right? What next, right? What next? So on what next, what we can do is we can perform a validation, right? So validation could be like, okay, the page contains this value too, right? Such kind of things you can assert, right? Or probably you can say, okay, this node contains 7 value or this email contains this. So for just understanding, let's see a simple example, right? The page value is equal to 2. So dot. So dot is the actually the convention we have to use here, right? So this depicts a process called method chaining, right? So yeah, here I will mention, okay, this is equal to, right? So here we can use some other assertions also, right? So I'm using Hemcrest assertions, but probably anybody can use other assertions also, right? So here I will just mention, okay, the value should be 2, right? And then extract the response, right? And we want it to be as string, right? And let's assign this entire value in a string variable because we have converted this response value to as string by using this as string, right? So now let's collect this value in a string. So I'm naming this variable as string, right? Now we will just do as we do in Java or also in other languages like sys.out print response. So basically we will be printing the response of this request, right? And we will see whether we were successfully able to trigger the request or not, right? So this is the basic structure you have to just keep in check, right? And you can automate n number of APIs you want to do, right? So see, the response is complete response is printed, right? If you will match anything like, for example, let's match michael.lawson at the request.in here. So you will see that value is here, right? Now, let's say we will just, for example, now this becomes a very old feature, right? And you have imposed certain assertion in this test, right? So let's say 7-8 sprints back, this field value was asserted for a certain value, and now after 7-8 sprints, right, that value got changed due to the new changes, right? And you may not be aware of this feature. You landed, you comes in as a new member. So you will see if this assertion will be in place, then you can easily catch that thing, right? So it is showing, okay, expected was 10, but actual was 2, right? So same level of checks you can place in lot of APIs, right? In n number of APIs, and you will just have to click a single click, and the request will just be running, right? So this is how you can trigger the request, right? So now definitely a lot of guys will be having question also like, okay, if we want to see what is exactly passing in the request, right? So let me show you that also, right? So for example, so there is a log functionality also there, right? So let's see how it goes on. Uh, yeah, yeah. Okay. So now the log all functionality will log you, and we will get you log everything. What is being sent in the request headers? Was the request URL part? Everything, right? So now you can see the request method was this, the request URI was this, right? Query param was this. What was the headers? What was the cookie? What got passed in body? And ultimately, what was the response, right? I believe everybody got that, right? So similarly, as we were able to do the get request, right? We can definitely do the post request also, right? So let's quickly cover that also, right? Post request. So what do you have to just change? We will be taking again an example of a post. So here in win section, you just change the post action, right? And let's say from here, request.in, we will take one API post and we will see with it, right? This is the endpoint. Okay. So yeah, the endpoint would be same, right? But in the post, as we all know, right, post always include the body, right? Not the query param. So now in here, instead query param, right? We will be changing it. We will be replacing it through body, right? So this will we will be using the body tag here, right? So here we will pass the complete body, right? Now see the body, that is what exactly payload needs to be sent. That is in given section. What have to be done, that is post action, it's again in when section, and the validation is in the then. Now in this case we definitely need to change the assertion also. So let me just quickly see the assertion I have placed in my other test. I will be using it here, right? So for example, in this API we want to assert that ID field should not be blank, right? So let's try this. So see how simple it is to create the get request, post request here, right? And the once they are done, then definitely you can run them n number of times. You can run them through Jenkins, right? And these tests can be run across teams, right? You can supply n number of data to them, right? A lot of things you can do. See, post request, this is the response, right? Now you want to log this also. Similarly, there is a method available log that we just used. Okay. Now I will just rerun the test. We can see. Okay. See now, right? The entire thing is streamed on the out on the console, right? Isn't it amazing, right? You just have to, and these both tests you need not to just run from this individually. You can just place 500 tests and just run the class. That's it, right? Everything will be running in a single go, in a single click, right? So this is how you can leverage your API test, right? Okay, so I don't think so. Like now, any beginner will face any sort of initial understanding, like how we can create an API automation test using REST Assured, right? Definitely setting up installation part, we can discuss that in our upcoming master classes, right? But here the scope was how we do it, how we create our basic API test using REST Assured. What, how complex it is, right? I don't think so. It is complex anymore now. Just 4 or 5 lines, and you will be able to automate your API, right? For an unknown time, right? You can be using it anytime, right? Just run it through here or through Jenkins anytime, right? So you can impose assertions, you can vary your data, right? By doing the parameterizations and other test ng controls, right? So this is like how we do the test case writing, rest assured, right? And the complete report is also being generated by using external reports, right? Now, for example, now here you have expect we let's say for example we are setting assertion like ID should be as null in the response, right? So this is your validation. But when the actual test ran, what came out, we will see, right? So the test got error, and it's showing expected was null, right? But actual value was 956, right? So we were expecting ID value to be null, but it came out to be 956. So this is how quick and how sharp it is, right, to catch the uh, contract validations, right? So nothing can be, you can say, nothing can be overseen by using the automation test and the approaches like Rest Assured or some other powerful tools provide, right? But in rest assured, the advantages are definitely Java is a very popular language, and it's very syntax is also very common to everybody. So you can just start mastering. You can start drafting the test from first or second day, right? And it is platform independent, right? You can set up your like you can set up your rest assured suite probably anywhere. Like you can run it through Jenkins. It doesn't matter where you have set it up, right? And as it's a common Java utility, so everybody can contribute, everybody can understand, right? So that's also a key feature of this. Okay, and definitely the support on Java comparatively other languages is very commonly and very widely available. So if you have got stuck somewhere also, so you will definitely get a lot of support from the rest assured community and from Java professionals also, right? So this is all what I would like to highlight and I want to show in the today's session, right? So this is these are the reasons basically how, why, and how things getting evolved in API automation, right? Using such kind of advanced tools, right? So better productivity, better chances of spotting bugs, right? So for example, and definitely your release time will also go live time will also be reducing, right? And your dev and testers fight for like stable or unstable build will also end up by seeing the results of this suit, right? And definitely the coverage will also be increasing when you will place a lot of test data against a single API, and those tests will be getting again and again validating, right? So, and such approaches definitely plays a role in those products which where actually the code is being written is getting written from a long time, and definitely the common code policies and those things definitely get compromised in legacy processes. So there it plays again an important role, because if you have maintained your API automation suite, so definitely it will scan the complete backend layer, and every API will be touched, right? And QAs will definitely get a lot of time by using this, and they can put their time and energy on strengthening other QA components or their QA processes, right? And then they can definitely contribute to the release in much more better way and better productive delivery, right? So this is all what we want to emphasize here, right? And if anything is definitely you feel missed and you want to have in other sessions, so we will be posting on our YouTube channel, right? And for the feedbacks and for any queries, we will be sending out the Google form over the YouTube link, or probably from my team, anybody will be placing over the meet also, right? So you can check out, you can send out your queries, what kind of issues you face while incorporating such API automation frameworks in your ongoing projects, right? So we will definitely work on it. We will get you the best content, right, on how one can incorporate the automation in their QA processes, right? So this is all, and with this, definitely, I want to thanks everybody who have attended this session, and definitely there will be a much more content, quality content coming from our side, right? And thanks once again from entire QA training team. Please just writing us whatever content you guys looking forward, and what kind of uh, content you guys want in future. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Have a nice day.